Welcome everyone to another WWE Smackdown watch party. Tonight the focus is going to be on Damage Control. The return of Kairi Sane at Crown Jewel, which I did not watch live, so please forgive me if I am a little bit ignorant of certain things, has certainly set the cat amongst the pigeons. Bayley has an announcement tonight and we'll be talking the future of Damage Control in what could be the final show of the group. Dakota Kai still not cleared to wrestle, to my knowledge, which of course makes it a little more crazy that Io Sky now has Kairi Sane backing her up instead of just Bayley, even though Bayley has been historically very reliable for her. So, fun time to be a wrestling fan. The bloodline, of course, have faded smoothly into the background here. LA Knight, we're going to see what the future holds for him. He's in action tonight, and Kevin Owens is going to be on commentary because Corey Graves has just had a child. So it's a bit of a crazy time in general to be a wrestling fan, what can I say? We are opening with the intro for Kevin Owens, who gets his own introduction when he's the only one doing commentary. And he's wearing a tie, which you've got to respect. Big hello to everyone here. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing pretty well, Leon. Welcome to the show. James says, Tom, do you think that Bianca Belair turned heel last SmackDown? No. Dom says, what's up Tom and chat? Don't forget to hit the like button or forwards for you. Mummy always on top. Is that a thing now? Is that a thing? Because it used to be implied. Now it's just outright stated. Pete says, KO in a tie. Yeah, baby, he is indeed. And doesn't he look glorious? And Eric says, hi Tom, how are you? Doing well, thank you, Eric. We've already got a few likes coming in. We're nearly in double figures. Good start to the show. Kevin Owens, of course, is in a tie. Even better start to a show. It's just a very, very happy place to be right now. They'll run through the card very shortly, I'm sure. And we'll see what opens the show. A gloat from Solo Sikoa is also, I'm sure, in the offing. But we're not expecting to see too much of Roman Reigns over the next 2 months. Rey Mysterio's music is hitting first. Of course, bad news for Rey Mysterio at Crown Jewel. He is down 1 championship. No longer the United States champion. Logan Paul now with the honour, but still the leader of the LWO, who are walking down to the ring with him. He does not look dressed to wrestle, but it's interesting that in a lack of bloodline, Rey Mysterio is being lent on. John Cena, another name we're not expecting to see too much more from. John Cena has, of course, been used to sort of replace Roman Reigns recently, but John Cena has now undergone surgery after his match with Solo Sikoa, and we're not expecting to see too much more of him. Wiggly is here, says yo 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 yo. And Eric says, I know this might be a stupid question, but do you all celebrate Valentine's Day? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. James says, I don't get how you're in this industry, Tom. I've never seen such a toxic environment in a long time. What do you mean today, James? I know over the last few spoiler warnings, they've definitely talked about the toxic nature of quite a lot of the different people in this industry. But I don't really consider myself a part of that particular element. There are some areas, and this is one of them, that I feel very happy to be on the outside looking in. You know, leave the other people to have their drama and have their arguments and just be annoying and just continue with my day. Bayley says, per a video clip on Twitter, Nick Aldis approved KO on commentary, but threatened to suspend him if he interferes in any match. So if, for example, he would interfere with a beatdown from Solo Sikoa, Kevin Owens could certainly get involved there. Kevin Owens' name has also been mentioned for War Games, or at least it was, before he and Sami Zayn broke up as a team, with Kevin Owens moving to SmackDown. Typically, the old-fashioned 20-minute promo is a Triple H staple. Usually it's Bloodline or John Cena who gets the shot, but Rey Mysterio has a chance to earn his 20-minute promo as we speak. Naturally, Rey Mysterio is accusing Logan Paul of stealing. Kind of fair. I do expect we're going to have a rematch at some point soon for the United States Championship, but Logan Paul needs room to show it off first. McCade said, let me book the WWE. If Sasha Banks returned for a babyface run, she doesn't want to, with Bayley and have Kairi and Io as a heel tag team against them, and have Dakota Kai reunite with Tegan Nox or Raquel Rodriguez. I don't think either of them would trust her anymore. James says, I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying other people are. You're on the good side, there's just so much negativity and preying on others' downfall. Unfortunately, yes, that's very true in the wrestling media industry. Leon is celebrating Carlito's gear. Carlito is on his way down to the ring. He has a match lined up with Bobby Lashley. Hasn't wrestled a lot since returning, Carlito. Kind of starting to look like a bit of a waste of money. Raiders shocked, very good. Carlito's apparently annoyed with Rey Mysterio for not being more blunt about this. I feel the brass knuckles are reason enough to be annoyed. But Carlito pointing the blame at Santos Escobar. As we know, there is some tension between Santos and Rey Mysterio. Not a surprise. It's hard to see who Carlito's technically on the side of at the moment. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat. Welcome, Marcel. And McKay says, what do you think Bayley and the rest of Damage Control are going to do? Not sure. I'm pretty sure at this point they're just going to be annoyed. And just express that annoyance. Bayley, I'm sure, will ask questions. Where does Io's loyalty lie? I don't think Io's going to have an answer for her. James says, Kairi, Asuka and Io versus who? I don't think we're that far. I don't think that moment is coming. Not yet. When we eventually get there, I suspect it'll be Bayley, Charlotte and Bianca, which will be awkward given how we got here, but that's where we seem to be moving. There's only a 10-minute opening promo, Carlito throwing some shade at Santos Escobar, who's walked away. And now Bobby Lashley is making his entrance, our opening match, said to be Bobby Lashley versus Carlito. I don't expect this match to last very long. It's unfortunate, but Carlito just hasn't wrestled so far. Since his return, I think he's wrestled less than 5 minutes total. And it's just taking so long. I'm sure it will, James, and I'm sure that moment will come, but it'll take a little time to get there. Gomez says, finally a story building with Carlito involved. The Bobby stuff felt random in my opinion, but it's cool to see this match. No, I agree. The Bobby Lashley feud is just a vehicle to get Carlito back on screens. And of course it does serve a dual purpose, given that the Bobby Lashley faction does need to continue growing, and my god do they look good. Montez Ford looks good in anything. James says he's done live shows but nothing on TV. Yeah, just a real lack of involvement. Sean says, do you think Bayley's announcement results in her getting turned on? Don't know. Don't know. It's a very personal question. Hello, Megan. How are you? Nice to see you. So 10 minutes in, first commercial break, heading into Lashley Carlito. As I say, I don't expect this match to be particularly long. It really just serves the purpose of getting Lashley and his faction on TV more. It's not continuing much of a storyline. I don't see it going anywhere beyond this match, to be honest. Maybe a couple of 6-man tags, but we're killing time a little bit. And in many ways, Bobby Lashley right now is filling the role that Sheamus has been taking recently, of guy who's just sort of there. Megan says, pretty good. Just got back from seeing Eddie Izzard live. Don't think I've laughed as much in years. Eddie Izzard is certainly paving the way for a very different sort of personality recently. Their work when it comes to the Labour Party trying to get nominated there certainly has caught a lot of attention. So I'm glad you're a fan. I know they have a lot of good things to say. Thank you, McCade. I appreciate that. Says, you're my favourite WWE streamer. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm very, very happy with what I'm doing at the moment. I've rebranded a couple of shows to sort of bring the channel together a little more, but the videos that I've been releasing recently are getting closer and closer to a point where they are worth the time investment. Historically, I've been working harder than I see a return financially, and that's kind of what you have to do when you start a YouTube channel, I'm getting to the point now where what I'm creating is actually justifying directly the time input. So I'm in a great position right now and really excited to continue. Thank you for that, it's McCade. Sean says, how long do you think before we get Bobby going for a championship again? I think the Street Profits will be tag team champions before Bobby Lashley holds another championship. And I think that championship in question may well be Intercontinental, because once they swap sides, I think Bobby Lashley moves back onto Raw and goes after Gunther. Which I'm very excited about that as a prospect. I no longer think Gunther will be taking on the World Heavyweight Champion, unfortunately, at WrestleMania. I just don't think it's going to happen anymore. But it'd be fun. McCade says, yeah, like investing into a better future. Hope it all goes great. Thank you kindly. The Sunday videos in particular, which have become the spearhead of the channel, have been doing really good too. Leon says, still hate they changed Carlito's theme song. He also doesn't spit on people anymore. It's weird. James says, I saw a post of people asking who will be the other two people in War Games. Majority of the comments are Randy and CM Punk. What are your thoughts? It's going to be Drew and KO, right? Drew and KO seems much more likely. Pardon me, yes. It won't be Punk, but a lot of people have decided it's going to be Punk, and regardless of what anybody else says, they've just decided so. There were, of course, a number of reports stating that Randy Orton was on his way back and would be back in time for Survivor Series. With this in mind, he needs to hurry up a little bit. Bayley says, do you see Gunther as a world champion by the Berlin PLE next summer? Not necessarily, no, but I do think that might be when we have Bobby Lashley versus Gunther. I still think he'll be in huge matches and well worth the time. I still think he's going to be one of the most entertaining aspects of the show. I just don't think he's going to be a world champion for another couple of years yet. He's got a long career ahead of him, so I'm not worried. James says, if Punk returns and gets a stiff hit, he's going to go on a rampage once again. Or, more likely, he won't. More likely he'll realise that this is a last chance, but there'll always be someone willing to take a punt on a Punk. As I say, TNA are working on it as we speak. LA Knight will take on Grayson Waller tonight in a attempt to regain some of the heat he lost with the loss to Roman Reigns. He's firmly dropped out of the main event scene, but this is another moment where Triple H can say, hey, we're not giving up on this guy, and neither should you. The Street Profits immediately making the referee nervous, which I always like to see. Let's see how long this match goes. It's been a little while since we've seen Carlito in action one-on-one properly. At least for a potentially prolonged amount of time. Hopefully he's had that time to build up some fitness, because that's very much the problem that we've been having. Carlito, that was not a good drop kick. Carlito simply had not built up the fitness required to get back in the ring full time like he was hoping for. So they've allowed him to take a little more time and relax. All right, Joey, nice to see you, mate. Leon says, I need Punk to do a Saudi match. That'd be so funny. Joey says, I'm glad tonight Smackdown isn't taped. I hate taped shows. I avoided the spoilers last week and I'm pretty happy about it. You will know B-Fab watching backstage what Bobby Lashley is doing. I definitely think there's going to be a build towards B-Fab joining that faction, but Bianca Belair will be the one to actually do it. James Kemple wants to see CM Punk versus Nia Jax. They do not get on. Eric says, Tom, of all the wrestlers you got to interview, who is your favourite? I got to interview Triple H a couple of times, and those were definitely my favourite moments, given that historically he's been my favourite wrestler. Sean says, what did you think of the Battle Royal on Raw and Seth versus Sammy? Seth versus Sammy was a lot of fun. Two wrestlers absolutely going at it at the top of the level. The Battle Royal was necessary to continue the rebuild of the Raw Women's division, and didn't quite help in the way that I think they were trying to get it, but we had a new challenger, and it really does broaden that field and sort of legitimize the Fatal 5-Way after it already happened. Yeah, there's a number of options, Dom. I'd be interested to see who it is. Bayley says, crazy to see wrestling Twitter post today assuming Vince is cashing out to buy TNA. I'm sure he's looking at better investment opportunities. He is not looking at buying TNA. He is cashing out, he's making lots of money, but he's still in a great position to run the WWE, so I really don't see that one happening. Kevin Owens seemingly a little nervous on commentary. He doesn't seem to really fit his comfort zone just yet. Carlito, meanwhile, just sort of running into Bobby Lashley. The match is a bit slow motion. We have 16 people watching and the 10 likes. If you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up. 5 more gets us to 15. And I know there are enough people in here to make that happen. So if you can, please do remember to hit like. It does guarantee further growth of the channel and guarantees more viewers in this here channel as well. Joey says, I didn't like to see DIY losing their second match back. Yep, but as I mentioned, when it comes to Triple H, his booking does not necessarily protect you when you first start or when you're first in a team. You always start at the bottom under Triple H. Eric says, what chance do you give Zoe? I say she has no chance. A 0.004%. Definitely. Joey says, do you think Vince will try to invest into a football team? What I expect from Vince McMahon, I've already detailed in spoiler warning earlier tonight. I feel confident that I've detailed everything as regards what's going on with Vince at the moment, what his next steps will be, and what his plans are for the money he's about to make. Sean says, I thought Nia would win the Battle Royal. I'm glad I was wrong. That moment is still very much coming. Nia versus Rhea is lined up, but it gives an opportunity for someone new like Zoe Stark to really get a bit more attention going. And honestly, that's a huge opportunity for her. I like seeing Bobby Lashley engage with the Street Profits on the outside. Well, also clotheslining Carlito with a ring post. These three guys just look like they're having a great time together. And I think that really helps. It really does help for me as a wrestling fan to take you seriously if you're taking yourself a bit less seriously, as silly as that sounds. They feel confident. Bayley says the 3-man announce table is clunky. Michael Cole seems the odd man of the 3, but I know he's there to build up Kevin Patrick. Yes, he is. He's there to step in if needed. I don't think we'll have that 3-man team very long. I think Kevin Patrick will step into that breach and Michael Cole will step away sooner than you'd think. Much sooner than you'd think. Pete says, solid opener so far. Yep. Working for me for a bit slow motion. Welcome, Pete. Nice to see you. It's always nice to see how many people are dropping into these watch parties more and more often as of late. We're seeing some good numbers on these videos and I very much appreciate it. Worth reminding everyone, of course, that every ad that's watched is a little bit more income in my pocket personally and a little bit more investment in the channel. For example, the new editing software that I've got that I'm now using for Sunday videos, that's something that you guys have paid for by watching, or even just watching for 5 seconds and skipping the ads at the beginning of the actual video. It's a huge assist to me in my sort of quote-unquote journey as a creator. Even to have a couple of people in here watching the ads, even to have at the end of a spoiler warning when I hit insert ad, when I turn it off, it's great to see the growth of the channel, and the resulting income will go back into the growth of the channel as well. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for dropping in, for saying hi, for hitting like, for commenting, just for getting the channel going nice and lively. It's really a big help. Joey says we're getting another Cedric and Dragon Lee match tonight. Good. It justifies Cedric Alexander back in play. Oh, good, Pete. Good to hear. And Joey says banger incoming. That being Cedric and Dragon Lee once again. Pete says, what software have you got? I use OBS for my streaming. That's the software that I use. For the editing, I use Movavi. M-O-V-A-V-I. I just really like the interface on it. It's nice and simple. And more often than not, all I'm really looking to do is one of two things. Either cut out a load of dead space so that I can sort of retake lines and the like. What I tend to do is I record in OBS. That's why I can move the graphics around nice and easy. I'll record in that in one big sitting. I'll record like a half-hour video. And every now and then I'll do a couple of retakes, but I'll just record it in one stretch. Then I cut all that out. Occasionally I'll add a couple of clips and video and images and stuff. The idea being to sort of keep the video moving. And as long as there's lots of sort of quote-unquote action in the video, it is a big help and really does guarantee a much larger retention rate. Retention rate basically means people watching from the beginning to the end. And the higher that figure, the more your video will be advertised by YouTube. the high retention rate is why the Ric Flair video did so well and reached more than 2,200 views in a very short space of time. It's a very good return. And full-time, unfortunately, does take quite a bit. To be full-time, you'd need to be getting about 1 million views per month. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be able to reach that surely on wrestling. I don't think I'm doing badly, certainly. But I just don't know how possible that is at the moment. That said, the growth continues. Ashanti the Adonis has run into B-Fab backstage. Looks like he's wondering why the Hit Row has been abandoned. Hit Row was abandoned because Top Dollar was fired, of course. Joey says Cedric is too talented to be sitting around doing nothing. That's why he's not. He's very much in action. Though it does mean, of course, people like Cameron Grimes getting a bit less attention. And Pete says, nice. When you want live streaming software, I do recommend OBS. It does very, very good stuff. And honestly, you can run it from your phone now. I'm looking at investing in a sort of a work phone. It's a bit more expensive, but it will mean that the shorts are a higher quality. So that sort of thing, it can be really, really valuable too. Montez Ford gets involved to distract Carlito. Oh, gives Angelo Dawkins just bodying people. Carlito and Bobby Lashley down at the moment. It is pretty paint by numbers right now. Nothing particularly surprising in the action, but Angelo Dawkins looking strong. Santos Escobar coming to the rescue now. I can only imagine this is about to go wrong. What I'm not seeing much of at the moment is Rey Mysterio. There's a spear from Lashley, and that should be that. The match lasted less than 10 minutes, even if we don't factor in the commercial break. Carlito picks up a loss. He's not there to be a winner. He's there to serve the purpose of the LWO. To my knowledge, his contract is only for about 2 years anyway. How are we rating that match, guys? Out of 10, what would we give it? Personally, I'd give it a 5. The match itself was not the most exciting. It just sort of happened. The real story, of course, is Santos Escobar not trusting Carlito. You can see him on the apron, just allowing the beatdown to happen as we speak. So I'm giving it a 5. Let me know what you would give the match out of 10. Rey Mysterio, who apparently left, has now returned with a chair. Dom has given the match a 6. Sean says, I'm going to see the Marvels tomorrow night. Hope you enjoy it, mate. Pete gives the match a 7. Leon giving it a 7 as well. Bayley a 5.5. Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar having some words in the ring as we speak. Essentially, Rey Mysterio is annoyed because Santos Escobar hasn't immediately decided that Carlito is his best friend. I ain't blaming him. Rey Mysterio getting handsy with Santos. I don't necessarily think Santos Escobar's the bad guy here. Just because someone new turns up, and just because it's important to you, doesn't mean it's as important to everyone else. Santos Escobar looks to be leaving. Looks like a beatdown might be coming for Rey Mysterio here. And indeed it is. Santos Escobar has turned on the LWO. Attacked Rey Mysterio, who recently has been attacked from behind a lot. And been a lot of backstabs. Oh, Santos is going for the mask. And it looks like we know what the future holds for the LWO, and it is not Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. No 6-man tags. Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar looks set to be next. And of course, we've Carlito represented as well. But I don't know who the face is and who the heel is. I know Rey Mysterio is always going to automatically be leaning face. I don't think Santos is in the wrong here. James says, don't you think it'll be beneficial if AEW do what NXT does, have a tiny crowd and long storylines? AEW do have long storylines. I feel I should point that out. AEW do have long-term storylines, and their retention rate is one of the biggest problems that they have. Ooh, Rey Mysterio landing crotch first on the corner of the steps. I don't think that was intentional, but I'll absolutely take it. Hello Chris, how you doing, mate? Says, I'm really late to the party, but I figured we'd get a Santos Escobar turn. We have And this is something I've been talking about for a couple of months now. Santos has been isolated from LWO. The big question, of course, is whether or not he's going to be LWO, or whether we have a return to Legado del Fantasma. The LWO in general right now could well be fractured, and this could be a night where there's a lot of breakups. If Damage Control is going to break up as well, Zelina Vega now crying at Santos, then this could be a night of betrayals. A night when they have a bit of a reset. When people turn face or heel, when Bianca Belair maybe goes to the wrong side. There could be a lot going on as regards a changing of the guard tonight, and I'm all here for it. The LWO are all behind Rey Mysterio. Santos Escobar looks like he's striking out on his own, whether he wants to or not. Megan gives the match a 6, a standard match in ring, but gets an extra point for the story progression. WWE does telenovela. Indeed they do. Sean says, I wonder if Wilde and Del Toro will turn along with Santos. They don't seem set to at the moment. They are very much backing Rey. I appreciate that, Pete. It's nice to have that reassurance. We will never, ever, ever break up. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. So the opening half hour, which, as you know, Triple H likes to work everything into half-hour blocks. The opening half hour was solid, if unspectacular. The match with Bobby Lashley was okay, but Bobby Lashley himself was not very important there. That said, we continue to show that Bobby Lashley, his faction is appealing to different wrestlers. B-Fab in the background was a real story there on their side. It served a purpose, Carlito getting beaten up and beaten down, which then allowed Rey Mysterio to be isolated and allowed Santos Escobar to get the attack in. We have seen progression then on both sides with both of these factions. I'm just interested to see how far we go long term. Joey says, does this mean Santos is officially a heel now? Again, I'm not sure necessarily that he's in the wrong too bad, but I guess that's most likely because who boos Rey Mysterio? Wow, Pete. Wow. Rude. Bayley says the Street Profits are a lot of meh lately, unfortunately. Let's ask that question. Let's ask about a few of the factions that we're seeing. How are you rating the Bobby Lashley Street Profits faction as a whole at the moment? I'm rating them middle to high. I think they look fantastic. I think the Street Profits themselves are getting a new lease of life from this. I think Bobby Lashley feels like he's come down to their level, though, rather than them rising to his. When it comes to the possible addition of B-Fab, I think that's a positive. I think even just teasing that, even if it's not going to happen, it's a good thing because it means someone else who's not getting much attention can be on TV a bit more. Factions in general are great for this. And it does mean that it has a little extra appeal to the team in general. But what do you make of them as a faction so far? Joey says it's nice to see story progression in the first hour. Yep, it's going to be one of those Smackdowns. Eric says, with Santos now clearly being a heel, where does this leave Zelina? Still with LWO and still with Rey Mysterio. Joey says, what do you think? B-Fab and Ashanti are joining Bobby? I don't think so. I think B-Fab joins. Ashanti briefly has a feud and loses to Bobby Lashley. Then B-Fab gets kicked out for someone else. I'm thinking Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair has a feud with B-Fab. Both Ashanti the Adonis and B-Fab get a TV feud and at least a couple of matches out of it, but ultimately don't really go anywhere. Sean says, since Christmas is on a Monday, Tom, will there be a spoiler warning? There will not be a spoiler warning on Christmas Day. I have duties to attend to as a parent instead. What I will say is we will have a Christmas special. As you guys may remember, I was pretty sick at this time, well, that time last year, and for most of December last year, I didn't post any videos and I wasn't live because I was very sick. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year and we can continue to host shows as we would normally. But you may have noticed I'm already back to the red panda onesie to keep me warm. I doubt that's a surprise to anyone. Eric has given it 6 out of 10, which I respect. It's a good spot. Megan says it's an okay start, but they still need to have that standout moment for me. The Hurt Business got that from Raw Underground. And without Raw Underground, I'm interested to see what they can do. But that one moment where it's proper solidified, I get what you're saying. Chris says, I remember when they tried to turn Ray heel in WCW, it flopped hard. I remember them telling him he needed to take his mask off. Very awkward. James Campbell says, have you seen the Inside the Ropes community posts on YouTube? I have not. What are they, James? What are you referring to? Tell me more. Leon says, very meh. Bobby used to feel like a main eventer. Now he feels just there. Street Profits are once my favourite tag team, but they haven't been hitting for me, and B-Fab just doesn't interest me. So this whole first half hour must have been a rough one for you, Leon. Kathy Kelly asking Santos Escobar what's going on. Santos not happy, and he's leaving. And one thing I do want to mention is that his hair is glorious. Like, that man puts work in. Kevin Owens, I respect that so much, pointing out that he'd betray pretty much anyone apart from Rey Mysterio. He's got history for that. Joey says, I can't picture Ray as a heel. He's just got that good guy persona. Chris says, I'm still waiting for Lashley's group to make that one big move that will make me more invested in them. Seems a few people are of that opinion. Quite possibly, Joey. I think spoiler warning historically has been Monday and Friday. I think we instead do a holiday special that isn't necessarily spoiler warning. Eric says, what if instead of Bianca we get Jade joining the group? Wouldn't hate it, but I do think she's going to Raw. We're getting a recap of the Bianca Belair versus Io Sky match from Crown Jewel. The involvement of Bayley. And of course, in addition, the involvement of Kairi Sane. I'm interested to see what happens with this one. Because Kairi Sane rescuing Io Sky, not a big surprise. We knew Kairi Sane was coming. I mentioned about a year ago now that William Regal's return was with a view to bringing back Kairi Sane. It was his first mission, and it's everything he actually succeeded at pretty much immediately. Io Sky and Kairi Sane clearly working as a team. Been a while since we've seen Insane Elbow. So what happens then with Damage Control? This has certainly made Io Sky's championship reign that bit more exciting. Megan says, exactly, even Retribution got the get 'em moment from Ali, so this group needs something like that. They do need something to really launch them. It looks like our second half hour will be dedicated to Damage Control and the women's division. Bayley walking down to the ring solo. No Io Sky, no Dakota Kai. Clearly a show of isolation right now. James says, this is as regards the Inside the Ropes community page. There are all these clickbait, click the link posts, and the whole comments are just against them completely. Never seen comments against someone like that. The comments will be also feeding it and making it grow, unfortunately. Now, I've used a community page previously to advertise my videos, and I feel so I should, but I also like the quiz elements, as many of you will remember. It's another thing that the community page will only really kick into gear once I go full time. The crowd ambivalent towards Bayley. They don't know whether to cheer or boo here. Sean says, not sure why Kairi would help Bayley, who took her out of WWE 3 years ago. She didn't. She didn't help Bayley. She helped Io Sky. Don't what, Bayley? Don't what, Bayley? She's too good for you. Joey says it would be cool if MVP managed Jade Cargill, I think. Looks like Julia is the next big wrestler from Stardom. Regal and Triple H want. Seems so. Eric says, Tom, I know it's part of his character, but would you like Roman to occasionally win without Solo and Jimmy? Yes, I would. I'd like him to win on his own merit, but at this point in time, I'd like him to do that once he's no longer champion. Bayley using the crowd very well there, controlling it. There are very few people in the women's division at the moment with that level of control over a crowd. Not since, for example, Alexa Bliss and her level of control of the crowd. The Becky Lynch's, her control of the crowd. I don't think we fully recognise the impact of Bayley. Not enough respect is put on her name. Bayley has called out Io Sky, who's on her way down to the ring. Bayley not dressed to wrestle. Io Sky is not alone. In fact, Io Sky has Dakota Kai and Kairi Sane with her, and my god, Kairi Sane's looking different. Now, I believe on Monday I did mention that Dakota Kai might also be the one to turn on Bayley, really firming up the face turn for Bayley. Because if it was just Io Sky, I can't guarantee that Bayley would be the face here and not the heel. Instead, Dakota Kai is going to be the telling part here. Joey says BWE is just another zero news. Now he just makes up fake stories for attention and clicks. He's got a lot wrong recently. Dakota Kai has a microphone which is also behind Bayley. Here's Guy speaking English. Kairi Sane just ignoring everyone. Joey says Kairi's outfit looks sick. And Leon says great to see Kairi back in WWE. Kairi Sane does not trust Bayley. That's very obvious. Bayley says beware Dakota. And you're not wrong. Dakota has positioned herself behind. Okay. Immediately, do you notice the trousers that Bayley is wearing in the clip that she's showing? Because she's wearing the same ones today. She's made a point of that. In fact, they're both wearing very similar outfits to their last exchange. I was interested to see if Sasha Banks would be represented there. She was not. They've made a point of having Damage Control together here. Dakota Kai has something to say. If Dakota Kai turns, that means Bayley's the face. Notice Dakota Kai saying we. Meaning that everyone in Damage Control apart from Bayley knew this was coming. This is a hostile takeover. Bayley has been loyal to Io Sky. She has defended her. She has protected her. The fans are falling for Dakota's shtick there. Kairi Sane lying to her face. There's a renewed intensity for Kairi. Oh God. No. Never trust anyone who forgives you. I like that. She wants to hug it. I don't hug it, but I like that. That's very nice. Oh, no, they're hugging whether she wants it or not. So Damage Control, at least briefly now, has a fourth member. I definitely see this group going into War Games. But Bayley's position is incredibly precarious. Bianca Belair now has come down with something to say. Logically then, we could see Bianca, Asuka, Charlotte and Shotzi. Bayley keeps trying to have a joke with Kairi. Kairi's not ready for it. Logically, Kairi versus Bianca is the play here. Here comes Charlotte. Yep. Yes, Megan, thank you. War Games. Joey says they'll need a fourth person for Bayley's team since Dakota is injured. The women's tag team champions have been mentioned before. I definitely think there's merit to that. Potentially even Asuka, to be honest. There's Bianca and Charlotte. But she did say all three of yours, so Shotzi logically should get the next pick. They're going to need more than two. Okay, so I expected this 6-woman tag at some point. The team up for Bianca, Charlotte and Asuka is entertaining at the very least. Simply because Asuka was a heel and now just isn't anymore. There was no actual face turn there. So we have all the necessary elements for a 3-on-3. I'd say Charlotte and Io are dressed to wrestle. Asuka dressed to wrestle. I don't know about Kairi. She might just be wearing a long coat. But Bayley definitely isn't. P says, ooh, Asuka. Oh, that is actually happening tonight. Fantastic. 6-woman tag. Everyone apart from Dakota Kai, who I'm sure will be in some way involved. This tells me everything I need to know. We are definitely getting a women's war games built heavily around damage control incoming. Wants to say, Tom, do you believe the best way to build the morale in AEW women's division is to push their young talent? Pardon me, they're doing it with Sky Blue and Julia Hart. No, I think the best way to build morale in the women's division is to fire Ric Flair immediately. His hiring is definitely one of the worst things they could have done. Bayley says, prediction, Bayley eats the pin. The other three are not happy. Of everyone in that match, unfortunately, Bayley's the most likely one to suffer that pin. James, I think it basically answers that question itself. We're building towards War Games as we speak. Joey says he can tell Triple H is really putting a lot of focus on the women's division. Now, this is the second big women's match we have seen this week. When we had Io versus Bianca, Kairi is absolutely necessary to sort of relaunch the women's division. We've seen every possible combination of the women on show, and we need to move on a little bit from it now. So it's nice that we're getting a bit of a refresh. Damage control not yet broken up, but not yet solid either. Dragon Lee is on his way down to the ring. He will face Cedric Alexander after the commercial break. I don't see this being the draw segment, so I'd imagine this second match will be quite brief. 23 says, when did the Bunny leave AEW? A little while ago. There's been a number of injuries that have stacked up, and unfortunately she's just not being used by the company when she has been fit because they don't trust that she's going to be fit. That causes its own issues. Oh, why did the Bunny? Yeah. Leon says, Kairi and Io are probably the two best in the division. I, again, really highly rate almost everyone in that group. All 7 people involved are tremendous wrestlers, and I'm excited for any combination of them. SmackDown's women's division is incredible right now. Buck Spaceman says, I'm going to assume this will lead to War Games. Asuka will turn on her team and join Io and Kairi. I find that possible. I think the idea of Bayley, Io, Asuka, Kairi makes sense. And then on the other side, you'd have Bianca, Charlotte, Shotzi, who's currently in a tag team with Charlotte, and another. We'll see how it plays. Welcome, everyone. There's a couple of people who've just joined the chat and just joined the show. Welcome to you. We have 20 people watching now and the 12 likes. 3 more gets us to 15. So if you've not yet hit like, please do consider doing so. It really does help the growth of the channel. And at the moment, this channel is really growing pretty strong. The Ric Flair video from the AEW hiring on Sunday achieved a record number of likes and comments in the first week of broadcast. And it has been a tremendous achievement for the channel in general and its overall growth. So thank you to everyone who did watch. 23 says, is VKM, as in Vincent Kennedy McMahon, leaving the E? No. If you want more details on that, check out spoiler warning from earlier today. It's the first piece of news, and as such, I share it very, very quickly. There's quite a lot to cover, of course. Sean says, your thoughts on Samoa Joe vacating the Ring of Honor TV title, saying he wants the AEW championship. It definitely lowers the esteem of Ring of Honor, but it's a TV title. It's not the AEW World Championship, so you would. James says Raw just needs to pick up the women's division a bit, and they're attempting to do so. The addition of Nia Jax, the use more regularly of Raquel Rodriguez. They are suffering a little bit because they don't have Alexa Bliss, who was going to be factoring into plans pretty strongly. But we are where we are with that one, and Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch are, of course, doing good things at the moment. It's just that they're trying to keep them apart. They don't have the same amount of people at the top level that SmackDown has. Tom says, Tom, who have you got for the Raw Men's War Games match? I think on Monday Night Raw, they really made it clear who was going to be in it. They really made it clear, and honestly, I think it makes a lot of sense. No need to be sorry, Joe. Welcome to the show. Eric says, what's been your favourite Bayley era? Mine is Pandemic Bayley. When she first turned heel and cut her hair and went for Charlotte Flair, that was my favourite. 23 says, will the NWA stay on the CW network? Possibly, yes. I don't see any reason they wouldn't. The WWE and NXT are not in charge of the planning, so it's certainly possible. James says, this MJF story feels like a farewell. He might be leaving. Certainly there are rumours of that, but I don't necessarily think it feels that way myself. It's McCade said it's weird that the Renders are putting Kairi as damage control. Maybe she's joining. They did outright say that Io Sky and Dakota Kai decided that she would be joining damage control. Bayley is not quite trusting it. I do find it likely that Dakota Kai will be taking over as the mouthpiece of the tag team of Io Sky and Kairi Sane in the near future. Coup43 says, hello Tom, who do you think is going to be next after The Miz to challenge Gunter? Going into the Royal Rumble, we need some big names to be the one making that challenge. I would think at this point we start with the long, slow face turn, and personally, I'd be leaning heavily towards a member of Judgment Day like Damian Priest challenging Gunter and failing. Leon says Cedric got the jobber entrance. He did indeed. Cedric should be able to bring the best out of Dragon Lee. They're both equally athletic. They can really show what they can do. But I do feel like they don't take Cedric Alexander particularly seriously. I've met Cedric Alexander. I've interviewed him. He's a very, very well-spoken man with a huge amount of ambition that unfortunately just hasn't been able to be fulfilled by the WWE yet. Joey says NXT may be able to get more viewers for the younger demo since the CW pulls in a lot of young viewers. Okay. Oh, right, Dom. You mean the winner? Yeah, I think the heels will win this one. No worries, McCade. Jack says Women of Wrestling is also on CW. We'll see how long that one lasts. Buck says I feel like Damage Control will win the War Games match. They will turn on Bayley. Seems logical thing as Asuka, Io and Kairi form a team. You forgot to mention Dakota there, who seems likely to be involved as well. Eric says, I say we get a double turn in the match. I say Asuka going heel, Bayley starting a face turn. Again, could work. Could work, and War Games is a perfect example of when you should be making those decisions. Wiggly says, will we see William Regal on TV ever again? Yes. Chris says the next challenger for Gunter will be 29 other men as he goes on to win the Royal Rumble. I suspect he'll have a match at the Rumble. Joey says, wasn't that a big thing before, WWE wanting more viewers for the 18 demographic? No, not really. WWE are happy with the viewership that they want. They want to grow naturally, but they're pretty happy to have people watch on catch-up. They don't care too much about the live ratings beyond the money it can get them in these TV deals. And when it comes to certain demographics, what they do is instead of worrying about networks, they bring in people like Logan Paul. And Logan Paul has had a massive effect on that demographic. Logan Paul's giving them exactly what they want. Kevin Owens so far so good on commentary, I'll say that as well. No sign of the bloodline. I reported earlier today they're going to be fading into the background a little bit. Usually by now, they start and end the show. So no sign of the bloodline as of yet, and it looks like our 6-woman tag match might well be our main event. Bayley taking centre stage, at least for now. Wiggly says, any rumours on the WWE UK Stadium show, or is a Berlin show happening instead of a UK show? The UK deal is for 1 show per year. Berlin is completely unrelated to that. Berlin is being looked at as a launch pad for NXT Europe, similar to the Paris deal. They're just looking at it as a launch pad for NXT Europe, which will be coming in the next year or so. The UK is no longer considered part of Europe by the WWE. I don't think anyone's surprised by this who lives in the UK. Bayley says Gunter and Ludwig Kaiser were on the WWE bump this week. They never break character because the mat is sacred, and as such, they will defend kayfabe. Dragon Lee just landed firmly on his head. Very firmly on his head. The referee communicating with the back to have someone ready and maybe make a change. They're showing a replay. Firmly on his head. Ouch. Alyssa says, finally treated the women's division like a big deal and the division looks good. The SmackDown women's division has been looking good for a while, to be fair. Martin, welcome to the show. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you for renewing your membership for a 13th month. Over a year now since you've been a channel member on this channel, and I very much appreciate having you here. Welcome, sir. Joey says this match reminds me of the Cruiserweight Classic. That's the element that they're going for. These are the moments when I miss Buddy Murphy. Dragon Lee picking up pace now. Terrible super kick there. Wiggly says, slightly off topic, but what do you think of Sid and Lex Luger in terms of where do you place them compared to other past stars? They were okay. They weren't top guys. They never really should have been elevated to that position. But because they were elevated to that position, they were par for the course. They were the emergency top option, basically. The crowd chanting, this is awesome, because of the athleticism on display. Try and give Cedric the jobber's entrance in future and see how they react. The same, the crowd don't care. The crowd couldn't care less about Cedric Alexander, and that's a real crying shame. Another bad super kick there. Pete says, great match, and it is pretty solid so far. These guys are working hard for each other. Oh, lovely from Cedric. Proper exhibition match in the course of about 10 minutes in the middle of a SmackDown. Going for the lumbar check, he won't get it. Wiggly said Sid was just a token big guy. Lex had the ingredients to be a top star. WWE pushed him, but his career never hit the heights. If his career never hit the heights when he was being pushed, maybe he didn't have all the ingredients. I'm sorry. What is Dragon Lee's finisher? I'm familiar with Dragon Lee's finisher. That's Tetsuya Naito's finisher. That is full-on Tetsuya Naito's finisher. Interesting. Buck said if they keep Io as champ to Mania, do you think the chances are high they do the triple threat everyone wants to see? Io versus Kairi versus Asuka. I stand by. I think we've moved past that, and it will be Bayley versus Io. Juan says, Tom Sportskeeda claims Punk is a masked man, worthless reporting. Yeah. Appreciate that, Martin. Nice that you've caught up with spoiler warning. I don't really want to retread that ground, so I appreciate that you've checked in and recognised it. How are we rating that match out of 10? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a lot. There was a couple of botches and a couple of dodgy super kicks, and honestly, it was too short, so I'm giving it a 7.5. Still think it was a great match, but it wasn't to the level I was expecting. Alyssa says, which turns Zelina Vega heel do nothing with her? She's going to be staying face for a little while longer. I can see her doing some very good work with Kairi. P gives the match a 9 out of 10. Leon gives it an 8. It's McKay says, I hope Kairi gets a new solo entrance gets a solo entrance in the 6th woman. I want to hear her new theme. I feel like they had to update it. Dom says 4. Seen this before and not shocked at the results. Peter says everything is his finisher. Martin says, why am I actually scared Punk will re-sign with WWE closer we get? All the denial is making me think it's actually happening and will ruin my watching experience with WWE. Won't lie, judgmental, I know. Eric says, I never noticed Bayley's tattoos till today. Yeah, she got some new ones. We are currently being shown why the WWE put the championship on Logan Paul when you look at all the different headlines in mainstream media that it's generating. Joey says, giving it an 8, wish I had more time, but they put on a banger for the time they had. Leon says, after all the bad comments Punk's made about WWE and still does, he would be a hypocrite if he goes back, and he wants to. Eric says, have they done the women's match yet? Not yet. That looks to be the main event. And James says, no way they showed that shower photo. Interesting watching commentary advertise the new championship belt, particularly when you consider that one of them they're not showing, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They just don't show it. They're not allowed. Wiggly says, any news on what is happening in Bo Dallas, or has that sadly been shelved? Has what been shelved? There is no storyline now with Bo Dallas because there's no Bray Wyatt. Wiggly gives the match a 6. Megan agrees with 7.5. When it went well, it was great, but a couple of blips and a little short. Wiggly is missing Kairi, the pirate. Sean says, if you count Judgment Day, then SmackDown has 2 full-time champions. Yep. That's wrestling now. Our draw segment looks set to be the entrance of LA Knight in the yellow shirt. It did feel a bit Hulkamania, I'll say that. I'm not happy about it, but that's how it felt. Triple H now has a mission on his hands when it comes to LA Knight. He wants to basically ensure that nobody's head drops. He wants to make a clear promise to the fans that yes, LA Knight may have lost at Crown Jewel, but that doesn't mean they're forgetting about him. I'll be interested to see if and when we see the Bloodline tonight, because I don't suspect they're going to be in the main event spot unless there's something big going to happen. And I'm certainly leaning towards the idea that they'll be sort of middle of the second hour. For me, the women's match should main event. Eric says, will we hear from the new champion today? Nope, he's part-time. Alyssa says, could see LA Knight Money in the Bank 2024 draft Raw. LA Knight was apparently the favourite to win Money in the Bank last year. He wasn't, he never was. But the reports went out there. Damian Priest was always the one. Always the one. Joey says, I don't think AJ would ever want to work with Punk. He's openly said he has no respect for Punk. And that does continue. There's a number of other people as well in that same position. Seth Rollins. Cannot stand him. Cannot stand him. He'd continue. He'd work. And if he was told that he had to work with CM Punk, he'd work with CM Punk. But unfortunately, CM Punk has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It's his own fault. James says, sources say Ric Flair's going to be pinning MJF just cause. Mine says, what people say and mean are 2 separate things. Notice that in wrestling, sports, entertainment, industry, Warrior, Brett, etc. There's nobody that has never eventually gone back except Macho Man. Macho Man, I'm sure, would have wanted to eventually. It's just unfortunate that that's one thing that never actually happened. James saying Roman Reigns doesn't like him either. Yep, he really doesn't. I need to be clear. CM Punk is not respected in the WWE. He is not respected in the WWE. There are very few people there who like him. Very few. LA Knight now making his entrance in the red and yellow with the sweatband. It is very Hulkamania. Buck says, I got tickets for the Royal Rumble, my first WWE live event. Very excited. What do you think will be at the event? 2 Royal Rumble matches, and honestly, mate, that's all you need. Wiggly says, I was under the impression they were going to continue with Uncle Howdy. Why? What gave you that impression? Wiggly, I've answered that question 1,000 times and it's never changed. Like, people keep asking me that question, hoping for a different answer. There is no different answer. The answer hasn't changed. Picture-in-picture for Crown Jewel. A celebration of LA Knight and his arrival. He's not considered much of a big deal, unfortunately. But his moment will come again, I'm sure. Sorry guys, having some issue with my feed. Just trying to fix it. As many of you will know, my even when it was back as BT, it wasn't the most reliable. So LA Knight is making his entrance. He's going to work with Grayson Waller tonight. Grayson Waller just utterly detestable. We're getting a full replay of everything that happened with the Bloodline. The Bloodline have not been seen so far today. Alyssa says Roman Reigns versus CM Punk should happen. Nope. Leon says what's happened to Karrion Kross? Haven't seen him in months. They have no plans for him. The creative team keep trying to come up with something. It's not working for them. Chris says, by the way, the YouTube feed is working great this time around. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. We may have had some issues early because a lot of people did have a sync issue. Nice to know we're still in a good spot. James says, I don't get why people would think that having the Uncle Howdy story live on would actually be workable since Bray's passing. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't. And they simply... I wouldn't trust the WWE to write that story. No, Wiggly. Ellie and I given the mic, allowed to address the crowd. And essentially write it, well, underline everything with the Bloodline. And this is the most annoying thing about the Bloodline. People lose to the entirety of the Bloodline and then say, oh, well, I wasn't good enough. No, there was 4 of them, mate. There was 4 of them and you're just going to accept it. But the point here is to give the crowd an opportunity to say, you're still our guy. Gomar said, if Punk did come back, I'd like to see him face Seth. He won't. Ellie and I celebrating that he came close. Celebrating that he nearly had him. We'll see if Ellie and I can still go after Jimmy. The Bloodline is available after all. Thank you very much, Martin, for a very generous donation. So thanks for all your hard work, Tom. Hashtag legend. Thank you very kindly. While LA Knight's cutting his promo, we can talk about the easiest ways that you can support the channel. There are a number of very simple options that can really help the channel grow, and I do just want to basically celebrate those and list the different options available to you. For example, if you don't want to or are unable to support financially, there are still some great options to support the channel. It could be as simple as checking to see if you've left a like on the video, see if you've left that thumbs up, and if you haven't, making sure to do that, or leaving the ad for another 2 seconds. Genuinely makes a difference. Genuinely makes a difference. So there are nice and simple ways to do so, but we also have options if you would like to donate a little more to the growth of the channel. We have the channel supporter option, which is $1 a month, and the channel member option, which is $5 a month, which will give you access to a number of members-only videos that give you a bit more of an insight into what I do and how I do it. So if you're interested in stuff like that, by all means, become a channel member. And of course, you can donate with super chats as well if you would like to do that. Megan says, I'm taking this opportunity to very respectfully look at LA Knight and not be jealous of his girlfriend. Good to know. Good to know. Nice to know that you're taking this seriously. I don't know what you're referring to there, Pete. Leon says, in the most polite way possible, Grayson's gear looks hideous. Yeah, his... everything... Oh, I see why you're referring to that. That's a very strange sign. Very strange sign. Yeah, Grayson Waller has a... sort of makes a point of looking as bad as possible. Gotta respect the heel work. Kangaroo Jackass feels a little bit racist, but okay. We're firmly into the second hour. Grayson Waller is here to help LA Knight get his heat back. That's all it is. Grayson Waller's going to be as detestable as possible, get as many boos as possible, and then get beat up as much as possible. If Austin Theory gets involved, I think we can say with certainty that LA Knight is now moving on. If it's a clean win for LA Knight, he might set his sights on Jimmy Uso once again. Megan says, to be fair though, Knight's girlfriend is gorgeous, so they both looked out in that relationship. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Wouldn't be able to tell you. Sean says, LA Knight had a talk show in Impact called The Fact of Life. Do you think WWE will ever let him bring that show back? Nope, because they don't own the rights to it, so why would they? No idea, Wiggly, but I have mentioned the Hulk Hogan of it all. Certainly he's dressed in that manner. He seems to be trying to co-opt the what chant into a huh chant now. The Burns are not as Bernie as he thinks they are. That... I don't think that's a line to use in a wrestling show. I'm sure it would have been cleared, but I... Didn't really like that one. LA Knight doing a bit of damage here. He needs to line up a little bit. This is a demolition job. This is a bit awkward. I get that this is supposed to be LA Knight fired up, and as I say, they're trying to get his heat back. But this is the sort of thing that really did damage to Austin Theory. And a cheap shot as well. Yeah, this is exactly the sort of thing that did serious damage to Austin Theory. LA Knight stealing from Kevin Owens. So we have this match, and then we have our main event, which will be the 6-woman tag team match. We haven't seen Bloodline. We haven't seen, for example, Shotzi. We haven't seen the women's tag team champions or the men's tag team champions so far tonight. We also haven't seen a John Cena, seen a Roman Reigns. Honestly, we're still getting a great SmackDown without many of the big name hitters, which is a great sign of things to come. I believe we're getting a War Games commercial now. 2 weeks from tomorrow. I didn't realise how soon it was. Let the games begin. I'll have to set my go live sooner rather than later. Well, I definitely just saw Drew McIntyre in this commercial. I feel pretty confident Drew McIntyre is going to be involved in War Games this year. Mentioned it previously. Nice of Dave Meltzer to confirm what I was saying today. Mine says, gotta go now, Tom. Family duties, I'm afraid. Just a flying visit. Speak soon, mate, and have a good night all in chat. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate you. Gomar says, is Logan here tonight or will he be back next week? I don't think either. I think he's going to be a very distant champion. It looks like he might also skip Survivor Series. But I do think he'll be at the Royal Rumble. That's when I expect him back, in the build to WrestleMania at the very least. So we're very much into our second hour. I'm interested to see if LA Knight versus Grayson Waller is a good match. Honestly, I think both of them are a little bit bland in the ring compared to some of the talents available. It seems pretty clear that Dragon Lee versus Cedric Alexander was supposed to be the quality wrestling match of the show. I just worry that they're not going to be able to maintain that level, which is a crying shame because they've got the talent to do it, they just aren't doing it. Good to hear, Wiggly. I hope you have a great time with it. I was in Paris this year, so we'll not be there for the Olympics. Though my youngest is still determined that I have to take her next time so that she can look at all the dresses. Gomar says another part-time champion, just what we needed. Pretty much. We're not going to see much of our actual SmackDown champions for the next couple of months. The thing is, this is a good SmackDown. We're not missing them. And it does create other opportunities. Io Sky could be the top name on SmackDown for a couple of weeks. I have no issue with that. Jack says Cena has surgery and he will need additional surgery in the future. Yeah, he was never going to be staying on beyond Crown Jewel. I reported ahead of time that he was going to be wrestling Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel. That's what happened. I also mentioned that was the end of it. There was talk about having him extend, but there was nothing serious. And with his surgery being required, as soon as they knew that the strike was coming to an end, he wanted that surgery sooner rather than later. So that was that. He was only there to really fill the gap until Roman Reigns returned. Then we had the Roman Reigns crossover, and we've moved on from there. There is a match actively going on as we speak, and yet they're going through all of the mainstream media coverage of the announcement the Elimination Chamber will be going to Australia. Picked their moment, haven't they? You can't use MSN anymore. You can't use MSN anymore. All of that is cloned. I can get my work in MSN. Tickets are already up for sale for Elimination Chamber. Sean says, what surgery does Cena need? I'm not entirely sure of the details on that one. But as it's been brought in by Jack, can you find out what the surgery was for, please? So back in play, LA Knight and Grayson Waller going at it. I'm really not sure how this match will go. As I say, if Austin Theory does get involved, it means LA Knight's moving on. I don't think he is, though. I don't think he is. Jimmy Uso needs something to do after all, and why not continue what's already working for them? Chris says, I may be showing my age here, but I grew up in a time where we didn't see the champions on a weekly basis. When we did get them on our programming, it was special. That's what they're going for with Roman. They're trying to throw back to that period of time. They're not there, but I don't know. If these are the days before the Attitude Era, when the champions were treated as special and separate. One of the reasons the Attitude Era was so well attended and so well viewed was that the champions were there every week. And it still felt special because people were used to what came before. We went from Bret Hart there every couple of weeks to Steve Austin in the main event every single week. He was constant. He was absolutely constant. And that was a huge help when it came to the ratings. Of course, we had the same thing on WCW. Hulk Hogan never left. He was there all the time. Even when he tried to leave, they finger poke doomed him right back in. So far, LA Knight doing most of the heavy lifting. Grayson Waller's just getting beaten up repeatedly. Also, yeah, his gear is terrible. What is with all the tassels? He's getting no offense here. This is very much the LA Knight show. Grayson Waller getting a little bit buried here. Joey says, I think what made it special is everyone in the Attitude Era felt like a big star. I wouldn't agree with that. What it is that everyone had a storyline and everyone was involved in something, but people like Crash Holly never felt like a big star. Farouk and Bradshaw never felt like big stars. Jack says they're reporting he had an arm surgery. He's going to start therapy, then he'll have the surgery done to the other arm. They're not saying exactly what part of the arm. Thank you, Jack, for clarifying that for us. Grayson Waller getting a little bit back here. Getting a little bit of offense in, a couple of punches. I don't think the match goes too much longer is the problem, so he needs to up his game. Bayley says, Hollywood Reporter said today John Cena's latest movie won't be released, not because it's bad, but Warner Brothers will write off the cost simply to reduce their taxes. Wow. That's... wow. Can't imagine he'll be happy with that. Wiggly says it's strange nobody really refers to Ron Simmons as Farouk anymore. Not anymore, no, but during that period, certainly, he wasn't a big deal, even though he was pretty heavily featured. Kevin Owens trying to co-opt the yes chant. That's not something that happens. Grayson Waller is getting intermittent seconds of offense and then getting beaten up for a minute solid. Hopefully this is going to be a bit of a turning point for him because I just want him to have something. I want the guy to have something to work with. Nice work, nice clothesline. Joey said it doesn't look like AJ will be back tonight. I don't think he's got any reason to, but I think that might be why we're not seeing the bloodline. I think he's going to want some revenge against Jimmy Uso, but he needs Jimmy Uso to be there for it. Gotcha, Jack, thank you. I can't really say as regards AJ Styles at the moment. I know he's been missing. But I can't necessarily say what for. He's been missing slightly longer than expected. He's due back anytime soon. From what I can tell, it's a private matter. And they're just leaving him to do it. And I get that and I respect it. $40 left. We're heading into our final third. Wiggly says, is Xia Li now getting a push with her feud with Becky? Yeah. But as usual, it depends what you mean by push. She's had a significant upgrade on what she was getting like a month ago. She's much more heavily featured. So yes, she's getting a push. But if you think she's going to win, you don't win a feud with Becky Lynch. Even if you beat her in a match, you don't win. Joey, I do not think we're going to see Roman at Survivor Series or AJ at Survivor Series. The Royal Rumble's a maybe. There's definitely been talk of AJ versus Roman in the near future. But AJ hasn't been available, so we are where we are with that one. I can see a few channel members in the chat tonight, so can I just ask, how many of you have watched some of the members-only videos? And if you have watched them, what did you make of them? Am I giving you stuff that you're actually genuinely interested in the members only section, or is there something else that I can do that you'd like to see more of? Alyssa says, Liv Morgan to me, Dark Horse, win Royal Rumble, do video package, or WWE TV and social media. Liv Morgan still currently injured and is thus unlikely to be too heavily involved. Dark Horse, I think, is right. Megan says, calling it a night a little early. Iron levels dropping, so sleep is needed. Hope everyone has a great weekend. And you too, Megan. Lovely to see you, and we'll see you soon. Sean says, I also appeared on NXT and challenged NXT Women's Champion Lyra Valkyria. That is more likely to be a win. Wiggly, I don't know. I don't really know. You'd have to pop over to YouTube and find out. Bayley says there were a lot of stars in the Attitude Era, but there were a lot of jobbers too. Droz, Midian, Pete Gas, John Stasiak, D'Lo Brown, and Al Snow. D'Lo Brown was briefly a Eurocontinental champion. a Euro Continental Champion. Wiggly, I kind of already do that. I just don't do it in the members only section. The members only videos are not for that. Sean says, I wouldn't say you don't win a feud against Becky, Tom. Bianca won over Becky. Fair. Fair comment. Definitely a fair comment. Joey says, I've seen most of them. I think they're good, but more members vids would be good too. Cheers, Joey. Appreciate that. My intention is to add more as I get more time. It's just a case of, finding the right topics for them. I want to be doing at least one members only a week, and then a Sunday video, a Wednesday video, 2 spoiler warnings, and a watch party. That for me would be perfect, and a perfect layout for the channel. I can be a bit less reactive and a bit less, this is news, that's what the shorts are for. And I can continue the review videos on Wednesdays, potentially going back further than my initial plan, and go from there. I'm working on that at the moment. I was supposed to start this Wednesday, as many of you will know. Unfortunately, something else came up, so it didn't quite happen. Joey says, consistency is what will bring more people in. When it comes to the members-only videos, not so much. But that is the plan, the increase in consistency to get us over that line. Blue says, not watching live, but I saw the damage control segment. I'm not saying I'm right about the hugging, but I'm just saying there will be hugs. That's a threat and a half. It's like there will be blood, but with hugs. I like it as a concept. Just very aggressive hugs. Welcome, Blue. Nice to see you, mate. I'm happy with what I do, Wiggly. I don't see myself making anyone scream. Though, of course, as always, on Twitter, there's a few people who continue to call me a liar, even though my work keeps being proven accurate and keeps being reported days, weeks later by the big dogs, as it were, behind their paywalls, of course. I'm very happy with the work that I do, and I'm very happy with what the plans are going forwards for the channel as well. Grayson Waller's got some sustained offense in here now. Goes for the same move twice. Never go for the same move twice. I used to work with a friend of mine who essentially got me back into wrestling. And when we were bored one day, we just created an OCD wrestler called Two Time. So they'd always have to hit you with their finisher twice. The first one would hit you. The second one, not so much. They were a jobber. And it was just funny to us. It was very funny to us. Blue says, Bayley, the menacing hugger, sounds like the perfect spin on the gimmick. Yeah, you don't want to hug her. It's scary. P says, LA botches too much for me. What botch is it you're referring to there? I think he's struggling to meet the pace of modern wrestling a little bit. I do think he's struggling, but the crowd seem happy enough. Wiggly says, tell us some of the most ridiculous stuff you've had said at you, Tom. These trolls must be mad. My favourite was when I reported Drew McIntyre was coming back to challenge Gunter, and trolls laid into me on Twitter because he wasn't on that week's Raw. And then when he came back, surely, as you might expect, they would come in and say, no, I got that one wrong. Nope. It's amazing how often people can be proven wrong and double down, while also accusing you of doubling down when you're proven wrong, when you've just been proven right. Wiggly says, I remember the recent troll who literally couldn't get over the fact Edge signed of AEW. That happens more often than you'd think. The CM Punk situation right now, it's just going to keep coming back around. It really is. LA Knight picks up a clean win in a prolonged match. Grayson Waller's offense was brief and unmemorable. I'm giving the match a 6. It was relatively slow pace and it was pretty one-sided. But we did get some good moments in there, and it does rebuild LA Knight after a pretty important loss at Crown Jewel. Bayley says LA Knight simply wasn't trained in the WWE system. 20 years of indie work, a habit hard to break. I think it's perfect for the WWE system. I think he wrestles like Randy Orton. That's just not necessarily a good thing. Pete gives the match a 2. Joey says it sounds like when Big E used to do the 5 things in NXT. I think there was an element to that. It was fun. You can always have some fun with it. Yeah, that's true, Joey. We did have that troll quite a lot. Nowadays, you can only chat if you're a subscriber. So you have to at least give me the engagement if you want to start trolling. As you guys know, I'm not exactly upset by trolls. Trolls do genuinely boost the algorithm and find me more viewers. That show with Drew McIntyre was a huge one for this channel, primarily because I was reporting news that was proven correct top to bottom. And also, as you guys know, it's just great when people go nuts at me. Chris says, I too had a wrestler I created called Two Time, except he was a mobster who had no problem two-timing anyone he aligned with. Also works. Leon gives the match a 5. What are you rating that match out of 10, guys? Joey says, it's funny when people were calling Edge a WWE traitor and sellout for going to AEW. It's funny how nobody cares anymore. Like, we've all just moved on. Alyssa says, love Bayley, need them song, don't like them. Wiggly says, on a side note, talking to Grayson Waller, Tom, have you or anyone in stream ever been to Australia? I have not. I've not actually been too far in the world, as it were. I've been to a bit of Europe, and that's pretty much it. Oh no, I tell a lie. I've been to Florida. Pretty far afield. Hello, Ghost. How you doing? Nice to see you. If you weren't aware, it is Michael, who a couple of hours ago gave you a gifted sub. Welcome back to the show. Nice to see you. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that one. Wiggly says, to be honest, some of the ridiculousness of the trolls is quite hilarious. It's like they go crazy at you like you destroyed their universe. Yeah, they're annoyed that I'm not confirming their biases. It's like when a racist says something racist and then they're stunned that you don't agree with them. They're stunned. It's the exact same thing. People who genuinely believe their opinion is the only opinion. Absolutely right, Wiggly. Absolutely right. Bayley gives the match a 4 out of 10. Jack a 4 out of 10 as well. James says, I'm in Australia. So there you go. There are Australians already there, ready to go nuts when the show comes. Alyssa clarifies she wants Bayley to have new theme music. I suspect if we're going face, as is clearly being suggested, that may well be happening. We have 20 people watching at the moment and 17 likes. 3 more gets us to 20, so if you haven't yet done so, please remember to hit that thumbs up. It does guarantee more viewership and thusly more growth on the channel, so I'd very much appreciate it if you can. Chris says, I love getting trolls on my shows. I got called an incel once and responded with, thanks for the view. The thing I like about trolls is their dedication. They're determined to get that chat rate as high as they possibly can. And you know what? They're good at it. They're good at getting the chat rate going. It's also, by the way, why we do high troll, buy troll. Also really helps boost that chat rate. It's just further boosts. Further boosts. And of course, if more people find it. I've mentioned before, if ever there's a hate raid on YouTube, which is a possibility, let's say a Fightful show ends and they all come in here to go after me. Rah. Blah, blah, blah. What I'll do is really simple. I'll say, oh no, this is so horrible, and I'll click the ad button. And then a couple of seconds later, once that ad's gone through, I'll say, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. God, you guys are really, really hurt. Hit the ad button again. And I'll basically do that until the end of time. That'll be pretty much it. I'll be a happy boy. If I get 1,000 trolls in here and they're just boosting that chat rate to the absolute ends of the earth, I'm making a load of money off those ads. But also, if there's like 1,000 people in here, other people, as those 1,000 are leaving because they realise I'm just mining money off them, more people will turn up because of that massive boost in engagement. So the show afterwards will just be great. Give me trolls. I love them. Eric says, hi Tom, how are you? You're lucky you haven't been to Australia, no offence, but you guys are hell. Huntsman spiders, anyone? So I've seen some of the bugs. They do scare me. They do scare me. I follow a lot of Australians on YouTube. I watch Sailing the Vagabond, for those that don't know that. Sailing the Vagabond is a sailing channel featuring two Australians who basically just travel the world. And it's a wonderful watch. And there's others. There is an original van life couple, Eamon and Beck, who are quite fun. So Eric, I did actually finish Loki season 2 today, and I do well in that role. I like the character. I think I could do good things in a similar role, because it is a role that I just feel would really match up nicely to me as a person. Also, Fair Wiggly, Robotron. For those that don't know, John Robertson, a comedian that I know moderately well and that I've connected with in the past, and that I just have a lot of respect for. I learnt a lot about streaming from him. When I first started, I couldn't handle trolls. I didn't know what to do with them. They freaked me out. I didn't really know how to be entertaining in a stream. I learned from John Robertson. His streams on Twitch. If you get them, if ever you want to learn how to do this, that's the guy to track and to follow. We're getting a look back at John Cena right now. And his debut on SmackDown. I wonder if we're about to get an update on him. Sean says, being a Star Wars fan, Tom, do you think if Obi-Wan's Master Qui-Gon Jinn lived, do you think he could have prevented Anakin from turning to the dark side? No, because midi-chlorians. I genuinely am not sure. Like, the story was laid out how it was laid out, and I quite liked it. We are getting a recap now of John Cena Solo Sikoa. It's the middle of the second hour. This would be the ideal time for a bit of Bloodline before our actual main event match kicks in. Now, as you know, I don't watch the Saturday show, so this is the only real inclination I get as to what's actually happening. Attacking the thumb is an interesting tactic. Based on what people have told me, I'm pretty sure John Cena got thumbed to death, which I think is a Mighty Boosh reference. Honestly, with what Solo Sikoa is doing, personally I can imagine him just playing a bit of slap bass with that thumb. I can see it. I can see it. We are getting a John Cena recap here. Chris says, I've learned that regardless of the audience you're streaming to, whether it's no one or 100 people, keep talking about the subject at hand. Eventually, you will find your audience. It's not untrue, though I will say what I've learned, and a really important thing for me, is that your title and thumbnail should not be aimed at your subscribers. It's actually the opposite. Your subscribers will come in because of how regular your shows are. So the fact that Spoiler Warning is hosted at 10 o'clock UK time every Monday and every Friday, it doesn't matter what the title is. It doesn't matter what the thumbnail is. Regular viewers will be there. That's how that works. So they're not your target. With that in mind, your title and thumbnail should be essentially reaching out and trying to get new people in. You can do that by being a little bit more creative. And yes, every now and then a little bit clickbaity, but you are trying to make people click. That is the job. Solo Sikoa will be back in play next week. This is in fact a no Bloodline week after all. So yeah, any tips I can give as regards streaming, I'm obviously more than happy to give them. Chris, if you're not in the Discord already, I strongly advise that you jump in. It should be a lot of fun. I'll grab a link for you if you're not already in. We're getting a little recap. Just a little recap of Kevin Owens punching people. So I'm just going to post an invite link to the Discord, in the YouTube side, and also in the Twitch side. Sean says, my guess is we won't see John Cena again until around Mania time, unless WWE uses him for the Rumble. I do a little bit of mentoring, is what I'm trying to say here, as much as I can. As regards streaming and the like, I'm happy to share anything that I have learned, and Discord's definitely the place for it. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory heading out to incite Kevin Owens here. Where's Nick Aldis when you need him? Kevin Owens is now done. Michael Cole just says, yeah, I get it. Owens again going after both Waller and Theory. Austin Theory versus Kevin Owens is one of the first things pitched when he came over, but it was quite last minute. Brilliant, Chris, thank you. By all means, just send me a message in there and we can have a talk about it. Ask whatever questions you'd like, and I'll see what I can do, if at all possible, to try and enhance what you're already doing, which, to my knowledge, and from what I've seen, is already pretty good. Alyssa says, do you see them adding another member to Bloodline? Yeah, eventually, but I think it'll be when Roman Reigns is no longer in the Bloodline. Once again, I don't think he's retaining the belt at WrestleMania 40. You seem to be really stuck on that as a concept. I don't see that happening. I do like that they both just said thank you to Kevin Owens, and that was that. 20 minutes remaining, and it is Damage Control heading down to the ring. Kairi Sane heading down to the ring with them. Dakota Kai there as backup. Kairi Sane with some very interesting new gear. Proper dark pirate. Bayley no longer central. Bayley on the outside. Wiggly says, what's everyone's funniest WWE moments? Mine was when Gilbert had the audacity to attack Goldberg. And then says another one, so it's not the funniest. 23 says, who'll be the biggest free agent in 2024? CM Punk. Because nobody going to want him. Nobody going to want him. Chris suggests MJF, but I don't think he'd be a free agent for very long, if at all. Leon says she wore that gear in Stardom. Good to know. Good to know. She is very much full-on dark pirate now, and I respect it. I respect it. Brief commercial for Raw. We're confirming The Miz versus Ivar. Might well be a little bit main event. It's a good spot for Ivar to be in, even though I don't think his push will last particularly long. We're currently 198 views, 14 people in the chat, 18 likes. Plenty of good times being had. These watch parties are not the most attended. We don't get the views, for example, that we get in our regular videos on Sundays. We don't get the views we get in Spoiler Warning, but there's a reason for that. A lot of people attend Spoiler Warning and don't really care about me, if you get what I mean. A lot of people attend Spoiler Warning for the news and couldn't care less about anything else that I do. I kind of respect that, you know? Do you think? What I have here, and what I always have here, is just a group of people who really enjoy wrestling. There's no pressure, there's no messing around, there's very little actual troll action. It's just a nice chill time. Just a nice chill, relaxed day. I absolutely love it. 23 Fresh says, who's behind the mask in AEW? I'm leaning towards Jack Perry. Jack Perry. Wants to say, Tom, what do you think of Mercedes' money? Like in the post of Maria May is all elite. Nothing or grain of salt, as Sportskeeda reported it as a big deal. It's not a big deal. She's social media savvy. She tends to like the posts of what's going on. For those who aren't aware, I previously reported that Maria May had a contract offer from AEW and is likely to be signing it. She actually received a contract offer quite a while back and made an appearance on AEW Dark when Dark was still live. And of course a pandemic hit, and that was one of the reasons that it didn't actually pay off. Pandemic is now in our rearview mirror, thankfully. Sean says Miz gets the win over Ivar. Judgment Day retains. More spoilers? I'm not going to tell you the results of matches, mate. You know this. It's always you who's asking as well. You know how this works. I'm not going to give you the results of the matches. I know what I think will happen. But even when I actually know, I still sometimes intentionally get it wrong just to screw people. You guys know this. Moxie says, Tom, what do you think of Santos' heel turn? Long time coming. Not much impact. Not much impact. I think, unfortunately, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Carlito, not in the ascendancy right now. Not big deals per se. But Rey Mysterio will always be Rey Mysterio. 23 says, will TNA be a big player in 2024? I've covered that one at length during spoiler warning shows. They're making a play to become the second, but that does mean AEW dropping down a bit. Thankfully, AEW is obliging. If you didn't catch spoiler warning earlier today, we did talk about the fact that AEW are now cutting costs. They are cutting costs, and it means that people are being let go. Here's our bloodline in the background. We're only getting a minute or so of it. Jimmy Uso confirming that LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso will be live next week when Solo Sikoa returns. And then he just smoulders at the camera. Just smoulders at the camera. So LA Knight versus the Bloodline will continue, but it will not be against Roman Reigns. The Bloodline, as I mentioned, will largely be in the background going forwards, at least until Roman returns, but Solo Sikoa will get at least a little bit of promo time as well. You will notice that the match between LA Knight and Jimmy Uso and then Solo Sikoa returning are being advertised separately. They're trying to make Solo Sikoa into a big deal, ready for the Royal Rumble. Damage Control, or at least the heels, have made their entrance. Bayley making signs of "I'm watching you" to Kairi Sane, which is nice. Moxie says, I think they should have built it up a little longer, which is fair. Sean says, was there interest in WWE for Maria May? Not that I'm aware of. Bailey says, when was the last week Paul Heyman wasn't on TV? It's been a while. Typically, if he's not on SmackDown, he's on Raw, so... Asuka currently on the face side, which is very confusing. She was a heel like a week ago. She's been flip-flopping a lot recently. Shame on you, Wiggly, and you know it. Shame on you. What a fan. 456 welcome, says good evening to all in chat and to Tom. Welcome 456, lovely to see you. Hope you're well. Just got a message about a cake at 2:45 in the morning. I think they need a sleep. 23, once again, all of that information is available, a spoiler warning, about 10 minutes in. By all means, head back, give it a view, and check it out. Charlotte Flair making her entrance in the middle. I'm surprised by this. Typically, she would come down last as the quote-unquote biggest deal. Bianca Belair actually getting top spot right now. Certainly does suggest the rumours of Team Bianca might well be true. Alyssa Rhea Ripley could main event night 1. She will not main event WrestleMania. Roman Reigns will main event WrestleMania. Moxley suggests that hopefully The turn, that being Santos Escobar on Rey Mysterio, turns out to be as great as Dom versus Rey. Unfortunately, I just don't think Santos Escobar has quite the level of disgust ability and hateability as Dominic Mysterio. Bayley says Asuka is flip-flopping because SmackDown doesn't have enough faces. It absolutely does. They're just not considered top level. Shotzi, for example, could be in that spot. Even just this week. Bianca Belair getting the top billing. She's on her way down to the ring. By the time everyone's actually in the ring, we're only going to have a couple of minutes before someone's thrown to the outside and we get our last commercial break. Not a lot of time being given to this main event. Given that there are 6 women involved in it, I do feel like they're going to spend a lot of time gesturing and not much time actually wrestling. Of course, it depends how involved Dakota Kai is as well. I don't see many big surprises here. Honestly, what I expect is a win for Damage Control. Probably Kairi Sane pinning Asuka. Of course, it's also possible that Bayley gets kicked out tonight. Meaning that Bayley ends up teaming with Bianca, Asuka and Charlotte at War Games. So I think there's still room to manoeuvre on these things. But I do feel confident War Games will be Judgment Day and Damage Control focused. We're starting with Bianca and Bayley. Always a good start. Always good quality. Moxie says nobody really had faith in Dom at first, being in Judgment Day and being a heel. Now look at him. Hopefully the same happens with Santos. Not unfair comment there, Moxie. It's a fair point. Bianca Belair beating up everyone, as is her one. And they're already on the outside. Bayley trying to catch Kairi. And we go to commercial break. That didn't last long, did it? I get the feeling they ran out of time because they had to make the entrance for everyone. And of course talk about Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. But this will be our last commercial break. And what's been a pretty good SmackDown overall. I'm happy with what we've seen so far. Very much enjoyed it. Considering it's been lacking in big star power, Roman, John Cena. I certainly think it's been entertaining. We haven't had Sheamus, of course, as well. No Logan Paul. 2 championships missing. No men's or women's tag team champions. But there's a lot of depth right now in SmackDown. A lot of depth and a lot of talent. And honestly, quite enjoying it. What can I say? Quite enjoying it. With the talent in this match, it should be one hell of a main event. I don't think they'll actually build up the momentum that they need to make it one hell of a main event. And I suspect the storyline's going to be all about, is Bayley embracing Kairi? So I think this will be a little bit overbooked and possibly a little bit messy. But still fun. Still fun. I mean, the talent alone tells you what you need. Still fun. And it's been a little while since the women have main evented. So it's nice to get them back into that spot. Particularly Bayley, who's not been a focus. She's been a background player. So it's nice to see her back in a top level spot and a top level storyline. She could be the core around which SmackDown revolves for a little while. With Roman away, Bayley's primed for that spot. But it does seem like it's going to end up being Bianca Belair instead. Not the happiest about it. Bianca Belair gets a lot of attention. Bayley not so much. But I'm still leaning towards Bayley winning the Royal Rumble, so what can I say? What do I know, you know? What do I know? Moxie says, not going to lie, I'm not as excited as I was for last year's War Games as I am for this year's. Last year's had so much stories. I still think there'll be plenty of stories woven in and out. But it does seem like they knew they were doing War Games from the off here, and they've just given us the same people bashing into each other for the past 6 months. Particularly when it comes to Cody, Sammy, Judgment Day, the Jey Uso involvement there as well. That's just been incredibly repetitive. And also everything involving Charlotte, Bianca, Asuka, Bayley, Io. It's been the same group of people constantly. Kairi Sane's added a lot, and it's been a big help just to refresh it a little bit. But make no mistake, this particular combination is exactly what we would have had if Dakota Kai was fit. We'd have had constant 6-woman tag matches just with Dakota Kai there instead of Kairi. Kairi is now tagged in to the ring with Charlotte Flair. Seems to want Bianca. Asuka is not tagged in as of yet. Sean says, I didn't think WWE would bring back Kairi as a heel. Yeah, that's where we've landed. The combination that we're expecting. We knew she was going to team up in some way with Io Sky and Asuka. We were just waiting for it to happen. As I mentioned on Monday, I would be watching Dakota Kai. I very much would be. Moxie says, this year has a normal build, but in my opinion, no story to it. Joey says, I'm hoping this Cody and Sammy Judgment Day feud ends after War Games. War Games has got to be the most definitive of the options. If it doesn't end there, it's not going to end, really, is it? You don't get more definitive than War Games, surely. Chris says, I wouldn't be opposed to Bayley winning the Rumble. My heart is still on Liv Morgan if she's healthy by then. She should be. But even then, I think they'd be protecting her in a similar way as they protected Cody. Good teamwork there. A little bit of Dakota Kai to provide the distraction as well. Kairi goes for a very disrespectful cover. I always forget that Kairi Sane has got it as a heel, you know? She's just incredibly disrespectful. And I like that. She's not a coward. She's not a monster. She's just incredibly disrespectful. And I really like that element of her character. She just doesn't care about you. It's very refreshing. Jack says, is it me or SmackDown didn't give us anything official for Survivor Series? It did not, but to be fair, I'm not really expecting much from that manner. I don't think there'll be any SmackDown championships on the line for Survivor Series. Primarily because the women's champion, the only one who isn't part-time, will be in War Games. So I don't think there's much they can give us. There's a couple of matches that will be added, I'm sure. But when it comes to the SmackDown side, I think it's more likely to be something like LA Knight Solo Sikoa. After that, I'd imagine it'll be a couple of Raw matches. Gunter versus Miz, naturally. And then maybe a tag team match. But the tag team championships are in War Games. The World Heavyweight Championship, War Games. So it'll be pure grudge matches. Maybe Rey versus Santos. Maybe that's where we go. I don't know. Hard to say. Asuka has still not been tagged in. They're working to keep Kairi and Asuka separate for the moment. Bayley blocking on Bianca. It is a lot of Bianca and Charlotte teamwork. Asuka's just been stood there. Meanwhile, I wouldn't say Io Sky's been very involved in the match either. Joey says, when do you think we get KO versus Logan Paul? I think it'll be after WrestleMania. I still maintain WrestleMania should be Logan Paul losing the United States Championship to LA Knight. I think that's where we're headed. After that, I can definitely see Logan Paul getting more involved for next year, and Kevin Owens will want that match. Leon says, LA Knight, AJ Styles versus Solo Jimmy in a tag match maybe. Hope not, I definitely see that coming. Okay, we have some drama. There's a reason Asuka is not tagged in. Oh, she's not a face. What a surprise. Asuka missed Bianca Belair. Bayley seems shocked. Dakota Kai seems happy. Asuka is calling Kairi over. And they're hugging the Kabuki Warriors back together again. Bayley just seems overwhelmed. Is that Io Sky? Io Sky's in there as well? I think Bayley's about to get seriously beat up. Thankfully, Charlotte Flair gets involved. I dare say there's our damage control team for War Games. Looks like Charlotte and Bianca are going to need some teammates. Chris says Miz versus Gunter as well for the IC title. I think that gives us all the matches that we need, really. Moxie says every channel I've watched has said that it should have been Roman, Solo, Finn, Priest and Jimmy versus Team Colohue with LA Knight on the team. I disagree with that one. It's Year of Judgment Day and all that jazz. Shotzi's gotten involved. Again, this is leading towards War Games. That's clearly a third person for Bianca and Charlotte. But so far it's 4-on-3. Who have we got in the back that could help them out? Zelina, maybe? I think at this point we're just getting a beat down. The match is over. Damage Control just laying into Charlotte Flair. Bianca being Superwoman. Becky's on the wrong side, Wiggly. I don't see a reason for her to get involved in this. I don't see a reason for her to cross the aisle. Plus, as I recall, she does have her own feuds going on with. It'd be confusing if they have 8 women and only one of them is from Raw. Doesn't really work for me. Getting an insane elbow on Bianca Belair. The faces have been laid out. Just completely laid out there. Martin says Bayley turns face and joins Team Charlotte. Not impossible. I do see that one coming, but then who joins Team Damage Control? It doesn't necessarily fill out the teams. Appreciate you, Martin. I don't think it's that quick. I just don't think it's that quick. I think the Bayley face turn is incoming, but we don't seem to be there just yet. So Damage Control have added Kairi and Asuka to the collection, making Damage Control pretty dominant going forwards. We're going to need to find ourselves some allies on the face side. James says that was very surprising. I think that was well worked. I think we expected it. But I think that was well worked. Damage Control have not broken up. In fact, they've added 2 more members. It's a good combination, I feel. Martin says Bayley as leader totally undermined. I feel like we're looking at the Nation of Domination when The Rock came in. The Rock came in and Farouk, who we mentioned earlier, was suddenly completely undermined. I think that's perfect. I think that's absolutely perfect. And I think Bayley versus Io is a lock for WrestleMania. Chris says, I like that finish, especially with Asuka reminding us all that she's a heel. Yeah, she never actually turned face, and that's why it looked confusing. Sean suggests Michin, which is not a bad shout. Bayley says, the post-Bayley Damage Control needs a mouthpiece. That will be Dakota. It will be, yes. As I mentioned on Monday, Dakota Kai turning on Bayley is being discussed. It absolutely is being discussed, and it is incredibly likely. And Martin says, Bayley is Farouk, good comparison. I feel that's exactly where we are. So after 223 views, 19 likes, and 2 solid hours, it is 3 a.m. and I am getting myself to bed. Huge thank you to everyone who has joined me today. We will be back on Sunday for our usual Sunday WTF wrestling video. I hope you'll enjoy what I've got for you there. In the meantime, though, I'm going to just wrap it up and say, as per usual, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.